Oh,
Muted. Unmuted.
oh, Frank?
Hi, this is Daryl. I'm with the tech support, and we haven't started the meeting officially yet. So give the attendees a couple of minutes more time to join, and then we'll start.
Muted.
Daryl, can you hear me?
Muted. Unmuted.
Daryl, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great, nice. How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, yes, I'm Shane.
For the duration of the presentation, we'll actually have everyone muted.
Okay, so we won't have a chance to interact with any of the other callers?
Correct, you'll be interacting with the organizer, which is Frank.
Okay.
Thank you.
Muted.
Hey everybody, welcome to your pre-tour webinar. My name is Frank Connely. I think we've got a couple more people there. Yep, here they come. I can see on my dashboard some people are right now logging on. Those of you who've been waiting, thanks for waiting. Those of you who just got here, welcome. Let me tell you a little bit before we get started what this pre-tour webinar is supposed to be. Sounds relatively self-explanatory, but it's actually formatted in such a way that you can get out some of your initial questions. And I'm sort of introducing you through this presentation to, one, what our development is about, so you can set your expectation of what you're going to see, and two, a little bit about the format of the tour itself, so you can better prepare yourself when you're packing, and obviously give you some food for thought on the flight down, of which I'm sure all of you are pretty excited to get down there. I was just down a week before last, and the weather was absolutely delightful, despite the weather to the north of us. And honestly, that's quite common. If you look at the spaghetti maps, as they're now called, of storms, they tend to kick north well before they ever reach the Caribbean to the west of Cuba. So Belize has been graced with not having too many hurricanes, tropical storms once in a while. But it's going to be beautiful. I look forward to you guys getting down there. And what I'll do is I'm going to go through the presentation right now. What I'd invite you guys to do, whether during the presentation or at the end of my presentation, is if you have any questions, go ahead and type those into the chat box, and that'll allow you to dialogue. And you can see there's a little icon, looks like a little you know, from the cartoons, the little text box, thought bubble. I mean, I have an IT guy here, so he gives me those. There's some things my knowledge base is vacant, and that's one of them. That's a thought bubble. So if you have a thought and you see the bubble, go ahead and click on that and type on in whatever your question may be. It'll go into the queue. And then when I'm finished with the presentation, I open it up to you guys. And in as short or as little, or short or as much a time as you want to take, that's what I'm here for. So the question portion is probably of more importance than anything that I'm going to tell you. So like I said, if during my presentation you feel like you want to just type in a question while it's live in your mind, go ahead and do that. It's not going to distract me in the bit. But I won't answer any of those until I'm finished with the presentation. So let's get started. The other thing you should know is that because we're on GoToMeeting platform, if you have, I think we have you all muted, is that right? Okay, so everyone is muted. So I'm the only one with the ability that you can hear me. Otherwise, if you unmute or if you're unmuted, then we can hear the background noise and everything else like that. So if you're trying to communicate with me through your speaker, you got to communicate through the text box. Okay, let's get started. All right. First of all, let me introduce you to the reserve. And what is the reserve? That's usually the first question on everybody's mind. And it's this 14,000 acre development, wildlife preserve, kind of encompassed into one. Absolutely beautiful piece of property that stretches from the Maya Mountains all the way down to the Caribbean, including our own island, which is about 12 miles offshore toward the barrier reef. And because of a lot of resilient design that we've built into the development, we've managed to create a place where the wildlife reserve is front and center. It encompasses over 10,000 of the 14,000 acres. Special development areas that are allowed to be developed are mainly single-family homes, by and large, with the small area within the Marina Village that allows for us to have mixed use. But what that does is, because single-family home developments are of lesser impact than even like tourism development, it allows us to have this big, beautiful piece of property. Just to give you a sense of the scale, 14,000 acres is about the size of the island of Manhattan. So imagine in the island of Manhattan, only 1/3 of the entire island was developed, and even within that development footprint, we take into account a lot of sustainability and conservation metrics, and I'll explain a lot of those to you here in the next few minutes. But by and large, the thing that most people ask about is, is there really a reserve, and how do I make sure that's being protected? Or is it just like any other developer that says, well, I'm gonna set this aside and I'm gonna call it green space until I decide to develop it at some point later? The beauty of this development, and I'm going to tell you a little bit how I arrived into this development just as a point of context. The thing that made it so unique for me, and I think should make it unique for you as well, is that the developer and the wildlife component are two separate entities. And I'd only seen this in a couple other places in the world, and I always thought it was such a neat way of bridging that gap between conservation and development, where the conservation is the City River Wildlife Reserve. And that is actually a Chapter 250 in the Belize Code, which is a nonprofit or charitable land trust. And it has its own mission, and that's mission, you're going to meet a great guy by the name of David Hilmy, is somebody I sourced and has got a great story of his own. He's also an owner down there, who's our conservation manager, who has a degree, well, several degrees, but the degree of interest is in wildlife ecology, and he's our conservation manager. So he reads from one playbook, which is the reserve bylaws and charter, which says that we have to uphold the conservation of nature, we have to protect, we have to study, and he's just, you're going to find him to be an amazing resource, one of my favorite people, and probably one of the best equipped people to defend that side of things. And then as a subset of that, you have the developer that has to meet certain guidelines, strict guidelines, and I'm going to get to those in a few minutes, about how we're allowed by the government of Belize and the Department of Environment, Health, and Ministries that allows us to develop within that wildlife reserve to a certain standard that makes it so that the impacts of development don't affect the other entity, which is the wildlife reserve. So I hope that makes sense. But there are two separate entities there, and as we develop out this master plan, you have the assurance and you have the confidence in knowing that you're buying into a master plan community where it has been for all time forward etched in stone that runs with the land legally, a set aside of a conservation area that shall never be touched, shall never be developed, and honestly, the development company wouldn't even have the right to develop it. It doesn't even belong to them. So that's an exciting component, and for anybody who's really interested in destination value, you see this beautiful picture that I'm showing you right here. That's what we're all coming for. That's why you go down to Belize. You want to see these sites. And we've been to many, many different places in the world, all of us probably. And we've seen places where you go there once and you go back 5 or 10 years later and you go, wow, this place is a shadow of what it used to be. It's too bad it's been degraded. And we see that the world over, where tourism development, particularly, and destination development in particular, they take a place, they find it pristine, they lay waste to it, and they say, well, this place is sort of worn out, better go find a new destination. This is a development where, in my experience and looking at how other developments have been done around the world, it's got the sustainability in the true sense that the destination value is being preserved. And honestly, that's the value that goes not just for now, but a legacy to all generations into the future. And you're talking to a dad of a 10-year-old boy who has some of his fondest memories when he was 5 years old. We're right here on this property, and it only gets better for him every year. That's me right there in the middle, back in the quiet days of 2012 when I was hired on as a consultant. I had my own company called Ecological Fox, which was a consultancy company. We did most of our work in Asia and South Asia, India, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, just to give you some idea of our area. We did a lot of work with United Nations Global Compact, UNEP, USAID, a lot of different contracts. And most of my contracts had to deal with energy, water, and workforce development, sustainable workforce development in developing markets. So I was actually brought on as a consultant on a couple different projects there on the property. The guy that's right there to my right, who's holding up the rangefinder there, is Connely. And these are important components I'm about to tell you. He's a young man that works in the engineering department, comes to us right across the river from the property in the village of City River. For somebody like Candace, who had a degree in engineering, being able to go home at night with his family was like a pipe dream. Usually these young men and women had very few opportunities, employment opportunities, particularly in their chosen field, unless they were willing to literally move hundreds of miles away, if not into other countries. The gentleman with his back to us there is the incomparable Erwin Contreras, who was a young engineer who was then trained later by Mark Mahaney, who's a registered landscape architect of high status out of Hawaii, who trained Erwin up to be our chief engineer. And I think important to our organization, and these are the type of things that you may not think about right now when you're looking at a piece of land, is both of these individuals are still in that office. This is 2012 when this shot was taken. I was just young on the project as well. And I'm so proud of both of those guys and the entire department that we've created, so much so that the government of Belize building authority has said our engineering department is actually more competent than the engineering department of the national engineers. And I'm really proud of these guys. But I think that says something about us as an organization, that these guys have the opportunity to be here. Erwin has just moved in with his entire family on property, on site, works there full time. And these guys are going to be the faces that you know and that you come to know and trust in the future. Because in those days, we had maybe 20 people that worked for the entire organization. And from that time till now, we have over 130 of a workforce of which there is no background workforce. We had to train everybody literally from the ground up. And that was actually, that to me, that was what made this project so unique and so compelling. That's me in the white shirt there in the center, and to my right with the sunglasses and the Hawaiian hat is Mark Mahaney, the RLA, who for 2 years we did the design work before we started actually putting the work on the ground. So all those little maps that you see that we're holding right there, you're going to see what those resulted in when you get there. Back in those days, this development certainly required a whole lot of vision, a lot of imagination. Less so now, as you'll see as I'm going down there, and some of the other things that I'm going to announce tonight on the webinar. Gentleman with the gray striped shirt is Alfonso Bailey. He's now the GM, oversees the workforce, 130 strong. Belizean, comes again from right across the river from where our development is. And the reason I keep bringing that up is it's kind of one of those success stories that is, there's so many intangibles to it. The City River Village was a very small little fishing village. If somebody that was living there wanted to get a job, you'd have to figure out a way to get from the village 6 miles to the main road and then get a bus to somewhere to get your job, and trying to do that to get home. On the other hand, our big development was right across the river, literally 100 yards away. So we started our own ferry service that runs 3 times a day. And it's a beautiful thing if you're there at the right time on property day tour. You might get down to the river pier where the ferry comes across, and after school we have one of the ferries come and pick up all the kids from the school so they can have sort of after school on property, so mom and dad can continue to work out to the end of the day, and then everybody goes home at night. It's a beautiful story, and anybody that knows about sustainable development and how important it is to keep those nuclear families together, that is something that is honestly that you as an owner in this development will be the benefactor. As developers, this is the legacy that we will leave on, is a healthy, robust, knowledgeable, and vested workforce that is obviously our development has created a great deal of prosperity for about 7 villages that surround our development. And rather than building walls around our development like you see in many foreign countries, we build bridges and ferries and everything else. So I'm very proud of that accomplishment, and I think you guys will be too when you see how warm and welcoming all the people are that are there, that are working on the ground. There's me again, my arm on Erwin Contreras. There's Clinton, who's at that time was just a junior surveyor, and we brought down that total station, imported it into the country, and that does professional grade survey work, and now he's a registered surveyor in the country. So all these things were, you know, what brought it to be what you're going to see down there this weekend, and the great people that have been working in it and the legacy that we leave behind. But it all, you know, sort of tails back and all encompassed in the land. If anybody has read any of the things that I've written in the past and recent development reports and the farm report that we put out some beautiful publications every week. You'll notice that I always fall back to our central land ethic, which was something Aldo Leopold had written about many, many years ago, that is even more important in this day that we live in right now, which is to respect the land as being a participant, as part of our community, that we don't live on top of the land, we live with the land. And we have a high respect for that, and probably no more so than at the reserve. And that's not just in word, that's in deed. Because as you see it here laid out before you, we do have these unique microsystems. David Hilmey's going to tell you, well, I'm going to tell you we have 5 ecosystems. David Hilmey's going to say we actually have something in the neighborhood of 28 microclimates, and he can name them all, which is fairly amazing. But they do have these sort of rigid boundaries, like you see here. Nature's kind of a funny thing. It's almost very mechanical and systemic in how land basically processes one of the world's most scarce resources now. And you might think, okay, what scarce resource are you talking about? And that's water. You see with the river, the savanna is basically this 3,000 acre conservation area that we've set aside. Not only is it beautiful to look at, it gives you that sense that you may be in Africa or somewhere exotic, but it also plays a very important role in slowing the conveyance of water across our property. And in realizing that as a developer, that this was going to be a property whose water dependency would be on these natural systems, we respected the natural systems, set aside 3,000 acres, which is the large savanna area that allows the rainfall on the hills to slowly move across our property. The last thing we want to do is shoot water out to sea, which engineers have been expert in doing for many, many years, decades in fact, to the point where if you pull up the World Economic Forum report on risks to global economy, not ecology, economy, the #1 risk over the last 2 years moved up from #3 behind banking institutions and global instability was potable water. The ability to deliver a clean glass of water to people throughout the world has become the #1 risk to global economy. That means our livelihoods are dependent upon our ability to just get something as simple as a clean glass of water, which if you talk to a guy like me, I believe should be and is a human right. And coming from a world where many of the projects, if not all of the projects that I worked on, particularly like in India and Cambodia, where it was so difficult to try to even achieve that, almost impossible. It was such a breath of fresh air for me to come into and be hired as a consultant and then eventually become the compliance and sustainability director for something that, rather than trying to fix what's broken, to take something intact and say, this we can make work, this we can deliver. We know the scale, what the community is going to be. We know what each of the components of the ecosystem do, and how the river and the savanna and the jungle, which is the great sponge absorbent jungle, allows the water to convey slowly across our property, and respectful of the marine environment of the coast, and how slow doses of nutrients need to reach the coast and out to the reef systems in order for that to be healthy. Most of the bleaching and the problems that you're seeing in the dying reefs have much, much more to do with the engineering that we have done, which is an abandonment of the land ethic to try to get water off properties quickly. And what ends up happening is you're shooting too many nutrients and not enough cleansing of the water that these systems, these natural systems provide. It's called natural capital services. And we always say that those natural capital services appear to be free until you break those systems down, derange those systems to the extent that you actually have to pay to fix it. And when you have to pay to fix it, you realize how valuable those systems were. So we're very respectful of the systems that make up this beautiful piece of property, which is aesthetic, which is healthy, which is why you want to go to Belize. And that's what we call maintaining the destination value, which is a maintenance of your property value in essence, but also respecting the fact that these are systems and they actually have purpose behind them, and they keep us healthy, and they're part of our environment. I'll get into that in a second. In order to do that, when I came on and I was finally hired after 3 or 4 consultancy, they hired me full time, and I accepted with great excitement to be the director of sustainability and compliance. And in compliance, I mean there's an environmental compliance plan that was set out by the government of Belize, Department of Environment. Some of the water requirements that we have as far as potable water and our treatment of wastewater had to adhere to the treaty that many of the Caribbean countries, including Belize, had signed on to, which is a United Nations Environment Program treaty. So there were all these really high benchmarks that we had to achieve in this environmental compliance plan. So my role as the compliance officer, sustainability officer for the development was to say, okay, how do we go about meeting these metrics? And one, you have to measure. In order to have metrics, you have to measure before you can manage. So a lot of it was measurement, and then we started to put into place basically land ethic contracts, which are basically contracts with the land, contracts with the reserve, so that everybody knew what these cornerstone metrics were going to be. And it boils down to these 4 cornerstones, and you may see that or hear that a lot with our development. And this is what it refers to: is this conservation of nature, as I spelled out for you. We have a big, beautiful reserve that we are the custodians of, that we must be respectful of what that the property itself was naturally engineered to do. And you're going to notice a lot of the roads are like, why couldn't they have just put a straight road in here? I don't understand why this road has to have so many zigs and zags and curves. It doesn't make any sense. Well, in fact, it does, because if you look at the topography, we used LiDAR, which is a laser topographic detail study, before doing the master plan, and all the master plan developments of land are up on high ground. And what that does is it allows us to, one, be assured that when you're building on something, you've got a good natural drainage pattern. But secondly, it reduces the amount of disruption that we need to create as developers in conveying the water off the property. And I always say that our property doesn't fill up, it sheets out. So people say, hey, has it ever flood there? Well, the areas that get the water are the areas that nature has designed. And if you look at the big trees in the savanna, all those areas are designed to be wet for a very short period of time. For in other words, if you see big broadleaf forest, you can look at that and as its indicator that tells you, okay, well, that area must not get wet for very long. Otherwise, that tree could not exist there. And the reality is that that area is up higher. When it rains off the mountains, about 100, 120 inches per year, conveys slowly across our aquifer, which is the savanna, drops down into our aquifer. So a lot of the water doesn't even leave the property. It actually goes underground where we want it. That's our water storage device. And it's beautiful water that's sitting in a granite aquifer that keeps it soft and clean. I'll get into that in a moment. But honestly, the conservation of nature is not only protecting those natural assets like that big beautiful cat and all the amazing food chains that need to be all intact so that that cat can live healthily up in the mountains up near the Coxcomb Reserve, which is the largest jaguar reserve. But it also has to be integrated with all these other things like eco-conscious living, which you see there in this beautiful home in a very Belizean setting. We help, and I honestly believe this is the real true value of buying into a community like ours, because if you are left to the background economy, you don't know. You have to, your consultant may be the guy that you're sitting there next to at the bar having a Bellican, who insists he's got the very best builder who can do this the best for you, and it's going to be very cheap, and you're going to get what you pay for. The reality is, when you're building into a community like ours, we provide you a whole lot of guidance, and that guidance comes from a deep amount of experience and some really good science that backs up what kind of building you should have. Why do you put a big roof gables? Well, it creates a lot of shade. Why do I have these open areas and verandas? Well, that's a great way of natural air conditioning. It'll save you some some funds. Can you actually use solar? Well, I'm happy to say that I started promoting solar back in 2014 in Belize, but I didn't do so until I could do something very important. And this is something I learned sometimes the easy way and sometimes the hard way internationally, is that it's easy to buy technology, but it's difficult to find somebody that can warranty it, can maintain it, and is going to be standing behind that product. So, and there's too many examples all over the world where you see very beautiful systems where grass is growing out of it because they did the ribbon cutting ceremony, everybody left, and the people that were there that were the benefactors of that, you know, system are wondering who's supposed to come and maintain this thing. Well, once I forged, and that was one of the things I did for the first year I was there, was really forge the relationships with the vendors that we as a developer used for solar. So what does that mean to you? Well, one, I know they can deliver. Two, I know they have a warranty. Three, I know that they can come and they can offer a maintenance package for you. So, because the last thing you want to do is, you know, you have a house that you're going to use once a year. You're going to come back to that house and only to find that, you know, the batteries have gone dead, the solar connectors aren't working, something like that. It's great to have a vendor there that's that you can email and say, in this case, Marco at Pro Solar Belize. Hey Marco, hey, we're coming down. Can you have somebody just run by and do the systems check on our solar? No problem. They'll stop by there, check it all out. Same thing with wastewater. We've got all that. There's one of the high metrics that we have is that we apply United Nations Environment Program, what they call CSPA, which is a high standard of water, wastewater treatment. And again, you want to be able to have somebody that's there that you don't have to deal with that. It's sort of, you can install it. It's a known vendor. We've used them. We recommend them. So we give you a lot of guidance. And it's honestly, it's something that you don't have to go headaching about, because over the years, we've headached it out for you and puzzled it out for you. So that's eco-conscious living. And also how you design your home, your site layout. How does that work? Because it's really like a quilt work. Like I said before in the webinar, that our development, because it has many single family homes, still each one of those has to fit within the context of where it is. If you're in Sapodilla Ridge, you should feel like you live in Sapodilla Ridge in the alluvial forests. If you live out on Equestrian and it's open savanna, you should feel like you live out there, and your home should be built for that type of setting. Same thing, waterway villages. If you're in the jungle, you should have that sense. We're not turning this place into a tract home development. There's more than just the aesthetic reason for that as well. The way water and wildlife needs to be able to traverse across our properties, you need to make sure that we keep intact the background environment. And it gives you a sense of privacy as well in many parts of our development, as you'll learn more when you get down there and take a look at it. And then the other two cornerstones are equal, even though I'm not talking about them that much, but really, in my opinion, in order for people to really appreciate something, and you have to have a connection with it. You have to hold something in esteem. You have to have a love for it. And there's no better way of finding that land ethic and listening to that little voice that's inside of all of us that takes us back and recognize that connection to nature better than outdoor pursuits. I mean, getting out there, reconnecting, whether it be in the water, and we've set up many different activities for you, and you'll be able to take advantage of these. And this is something to me that is so dear to me, is being able to say that to you as you're going down on this tour, that I can tell you, if you want to go horseback riding, if you want to go kayaking, if you want to go on nature trails, if you want to go down to the farm, these are things that you now can participate in. And when just a couple short years ago, I could say that, but it would be sort of rough. I mean, we actually have now surveyed trails where we're going to actually put wayfinding markers out there, so you can not only get through the trail, but you can also learn a lot. So educational and infusing you in the land ethic. David Hilme had a brilliant idea of putting together sorry, that's my phone. Hold on one second. So, sorry everyone, I thought I turned off my ringer. But what you're going to find is that now all these things you can do. David Hilme put together a kayaking trail that you're going to love. It's called Lagoon Labyrinth, taking you through the mangrove. And then lastly, holistic wellness. I mean, holistic wellness to me was always a big one, and it was difficult to achieve. It's not so easy. You can say holistic wellness, but if it actually has some actual meaning, then it takes a little bit of time and effort for everyone involved. So in our case, the big one was the farm, and being able to actually deliver a farm. And you're going to get to meet somebody else who is a huge fan of mine, who was for a very long time in Belize, that I finally was able to convince him to come and start our farm. His name is Nana Mensa, and he is an actual gem of a man, as well as an asset to Belize. He's Belizean. He was the National Director for Sustainable Harvest International. That's a good one to go ahead and Google. They had a beautiful demo farm down in Punta Gorda. He and I met several years ago, started off a great relationship and a mutual love for organic farming and agriculture and sustainable agriculture. And over a period of time, I had talked with Sustainable Harvest International. They agreed to let us have Nana to start and direct our farm. So it's a bona fide forest farm, permaculture based, medicinal based as well. He's going to talk to you a lot about the natural medicinal qualities of many of the plants that we have. We have a 24-hour pharmacy, as we like to say, down in the marina, which is a plant pharmacy that actually has something for almost every ailment, and a little guidebook that goes with it. And then also everything you eat at the restaurant is going to be right from the farm. And the beauty of that is being able to program not only the farm and the scale of the farm, but then to bring in Chef Calvert, who you're going to meet down there, and you're going to sample many of his cuisines. He is an outstanding asset because not only is he Belizean, classically trained chef who brings in Belizean fusion. Like he had a mango butter that was like an apple butter that was just absolutely phenomenal on croissant in the morning down at the beach club. It's surreal to have an asset like him, but my dream was to have a chef and my farm director be able to work together, and these two get together so well. Every morning they get together, and interestingly, Chef bases his recipes or his menu on what's at the peak of freshness from Nana's farm. I couldn't be more thrilled, and it's a huge value addition to what you're going to see down there, and I can't wait for you guys to enjoy that. And that's been a long dream coming. Many owners before you have heard about this and were told this was going to happen. You guys get to live it right now in the present. Okay, so right now you're looking at a blank screen, and I'm going to give you a little video because I want to show you where you're going to be spending a lot of time. Oh, I feel so badly for you guys. You're going to get to live at our beach club for a few days. Now, what you're looking at right now on because we're using GoToMeeting as a platform, may be looking a little jerky. It's actually some drone footage that we have compiled for you. So if you want to see the video in a different format, high resolution format, and is not just kind of clicking along like it may be showing right there, please let us know, and we can email that to everyone who is attendance today, and we'll just do that. Can't we, Daryl? Yes. Okay. So all of you are going to get this video in your inbox as a special thank you for attending this webinar. But honestly, this was really a challenge because you can see on what a little spit of land that is, and so beautiful, right on the Caribbean to the left, and the wetland mangroves to the right. From a sustainability standpoint, this is a zero effluent facility, which means that it is completely self-contained and a beautifully designed landscaped by Mark Mahaney, who you will see the influences of Hawaii there when you're there. You'll have your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and some free time there. You'll get to meet owners at Owner Appreciation Night, which we do 3 nights a week. You'll see some tents, which are there to the left as we're flying over, which are some glamping tents that we're just now remodeling, that people will be able to come back and spend the night. And then where we're flying right now up the coast here is the natural Belizean beach. We have one of the ladies, Ms. Putz, who's the chef at the staff kitchen. She's told me that she remembers as a child that that the beaches used to look like our beach, and now unfortunately people have a tendency to destroy beaches rather than keeping them in their native condition, which gives you access to seeing things like sea grape and wild almond and many other plants that are tolerant to the salty environments of a beach, which provide shade and beauty to otherwise a long spit of sand. The big news right now, gang, is the marina, and I really love being able to talk about this with you right now, because as I said, when I was there in 2012, it was a big hole in the ground. I'm going to give you some examples of what that is, photographic examples here in a moment. But what I want to do is sort of center and calibrate your thinking as it relates to the marina. Because you may be into boats. You may not even care there is a marina, because once you get there, you're going to say, well, you know what, everything else other than the marina is fine with me. You know, all this, the open spaces, the forests, the island, you know, I really don't care. But the reality is this, gang, is that the marina brings the same type of value as you would if you had a big name resort, let's just say. Let's say a Four Seasons, for example. You may have a Four Seasons hotel. You don't intend to use the hotel because you're an owner in the development, but your value is adjusted upward because there is a Four Seasons hotel in your development, or if it's a Four Seasons hotel. The marina does that, and it's not just because it's any marina, but it's an IGY marina, and Island Global Yachting, and I'm going to get into a little bit into that. So what I want to let you know right now is that you all are fortunate in being in a time period where when I came in, it was a hole in the ground. When you're coming into the game, it's just a few months from opening. And that's not a speculative statement. I helped and have navigated with our other team members the relationship with IGY, no pun intended, navigated IGY, to actually having a signed contract where they're going to start managing our marina come January of 2018. So there's this window of time right now where we're still the development in the process, and come January, actually a little short of that, the whole world is going to find out about this development, and boaters are going to come down, and our marina will be open to the international community, and you can bet that is going to have an impact on the value of our community and people knowing about our community. But it started right there. That was 2012, and what you're looking at there was basically where the forest opened up into the flats, and to the right of your screen you can see the Sapodilla Lagoon, which many a developer, if wanting to take a shortcut, would have actually just built the marina in the lagoon. But they wanted a deep water marina, and they also wanted to take advantage of the sustainability and resilience that mangrove gives to a marina and a development. So all that green that you see to the top of your screen there, and that little white sand you see out there, is where the beach club is going to be. And in fact, it's not there yet. If you look at this picture, there's an opening in the sand there with, it looks like one palm tree in the middle, pretty much at the 11 o'clock on your screen. That is where the beach club is now, that hadn't been built yet. So what you were looking at is no beach club, and just basically the first outline of what the marina was going to be. And then we got in the big excavators, started digging it out to, we have 8 to 10 foot of assured minimum depth, all seawalled, 100% seawalled all the way around, sitting behind the mangrove, so it's extraordinarily resilient. Our mean high to low tide is only 6 inches between high and low tide, which is incredibly shallow. And then we've actually had some tropical storms. We actually had one Category 1 hurricane, and our storm surge was another 2 inches. And you say, well, how is that even possible? Well, one, we have a very formidable barrier reef that lives up to its name. That reduces the impact of large swells, as well as the action, the wave action that goes with them. And then nothing, and this is a really good one to Google if you're interested, nothing is a better wave energy reduction machine than mangrove, because of its stilted roots. It cuts down the energy of wave action. David Helmy is going to show you what we're doing to conserve our mangrove and to enhance our mangrove and the protection that it gives, not just in this generation, but every generation going forward. So finally came to the day where it was time to open up the marina and then dig out the last bits to allow the sea to come in and greet the marina. And that was the first day that the marina was flooded. We were well on our way of putting in the what was going to be the dining room to the right and the bar to the left. You'll get to see what those turned into. And now you start getting closer to our present day, where you can see that big, beautiful marina. People always commend us on the color of our marina, and you never really know until they flood it what color your marina is going to be, but it has to do with your flow. And the Mennonites, who did all the heavy earthwork, had some very, ingenious but very retro way of doing things. They would put a mangrove leaf on the water to see which direction the leaf would be moving, and that would tell them that the water was actually conveying in the direction that they wanted, which is in this picture from the center to the left down the channels along Sapodilla Ridge, and then that circulates back out into the lagoon. So we actually have full circulation through our marina, so no stagnation. Very beautiful. This is also a really good indicator of this photograph, is the difference between the marine side of our development and the freshwater side of our development is divided by that big forest line that comes across the middle. That little scar that you see that kind of cuts across the savanna there is the Marina Road. That's about 2 miles. And that's that 3,000 acre, basically water cartridge that when that rains off in the hills that you see up there, and it's actually in this picture, if you look at 11 o'clock, that little haze right there is a little shower that's coming down. That rain hits those hillsides, conveys slowly across our savanna, and actually is percolating down under the ground right there. It's not even making it all the way to that ridge line. But that is our protected watershed on that other side of the marine side. And you'll see how we design. We never have waters that go beyond the Sapodilla Ridge, and that ridge goes all the way up to North Ridge to the north, all the way south to our channel that opens back out into the Sapodilla Lagoon. Absolutely brilliant engineering, beautiful job by the Mennonite community who live actually on site in our base yard as our basically utilities department. And there we're coming into even more recent times, but not quite where we are now. You're going to see there are even improvements here, but from this picture in the center, you can see where, like I said, the dining palapa and the bar palapa. Behind that, you'll see a white building with a green roof. That's the fuel station. And then what we have completed along that stem on the left there are the fuel docks, the sundry station for the fuel docks, the boathouse, which has showers for day trippers who are coming into our marina, as well as laundry facilities for sailors who always want that. And then we also have our IGY office, spa, and areas where you'll be able to get a massage eventually, and check in with IGY and check in your boats. So we'll have approximately 80 slips that'll be open for business in the upcoming months, and then from there we'll open up the balance of up to 250 slips. And obviously it's not like we'll open the gates and suddenly boats will come rushing in. But what you'll find is, and this is another thing that you need to keep in mind, is if you're wondering, one, okay, I'm going to buy here, when the goods and services are going to come. Well, I can tell you the marina is going to accelerate the quality of goods and services that you will be able to obtain. If any of you have been to Cabo San Lucas Marina, that is an IGY marina. And you'll see there's this wonderful mall that I can tell you, I would propose to you that mall would not exist at all in Cabo San Lucas unless that marina were there. The local traffic is not fueling the goods and services, of high-end goods and services that you see in that pedestrian mall with these exquisite shops and for clothing and so forth. It is the marina that is bringing in the throughput of traffic, of boaters, people with mega yachts, of dispensable incomes that are going to come in. They're going to eat, they're going to drink, they're going to buy things, they're going to have ice cream, they're going to want to buy souvenirs, they're going to want to buy nice clothes, they want to get a haircut. So you wonder where all these services and goods are going to come from. This will be the promoter of that. So this is a major value addition to our community, because independent of whether people are visiting or coming into our community, the support of goods and services there in the Marina Village are there for all times. Also, those people, according to IGY, have specific needs, and I'm going to get into those in a minute. When IGY came down the last time I was with them, and I'm going to show you a picture of our meeting with them back in April, that was a decision when they said, okay, well, let's get together, let's do this. We're gonna manage this marina for you, and we were very happy to do that. And this is why, the power of the network, because IGY marinas have marinas all over the Caribbean, and I want you to look at this map that comes right from their website. And if you go to their website right now, you're not going to see Belize on there until later in the year, because they have built an entire press package and a press announcement around the opening of our marina. But I want you to notice something, okay? You see Panama, Colombia, St. Lucia, St. Martin, St. Thomas, Puerto Rico, Turks and Caicos, Fort Lauderdale, Cancun, and then there's this big run, big open area that fails to complete this almost perfect circle that they've created in the Caribbean, and that's where we are, right there in Belize. So particularly the whispers have already gone out from Cancun, IGY. So much so that these big boys just showed up out of the blue one day. They made the 300-mile run down from Cancun because they wanted to check out, before anybody else did, during the IGY Whisper campaign, that a new marina was going to open up in Belize. These guys wanted to check it out, see what it was all about, and we were happy to host them. It was wonderful having a 110 marina, 110-foot and 108-foot mega yachts, or yachts, super yachts, come into our marina, look around. We're very excited about the fact that we had so many landside activities and waterside activities, like going out to the island or going hiking. They spent, on one case, I think one spent 3 weeks, the other one spent about 10 days. They were interested in discussing with IGY home porting, which for big boats like that is quite the economic incentive of having a marina like ours. One, that has these big, beautiful boats in our marina, but also, which is, you know, some great eye candy. But also they bring in a lot of economy, jobs. Obviously they have consumptions, and we're happy to fill those. And that's really something that you're at a period of time right now between what I'm about to tell you and where we are now, where there are going to be the people who have invested in this before the marina opened, and there will be the people that wish they had invested before the marina opened. Because these things are happening, and they're happening now, and you gotta strike while the iron's hot. This is the last meeting that we had. I'm there, the second guy at the 3 o'clock position, and the three guys from IGY are all on the left side of the table there. At the far end is Bert, who's their marketing manager, who was very excited to get us under the banner of IGY. Eric, next to him, is their development director. Moving down toward the front of the screen is Brian, who's the marina manager from San Martin. He's actually said when he was there, he says, I want to be the guy that has to come down here and get this thing opened. And that's quite a compliment coming from somebody like him, who's been the marina manager at San Martin. So he's going to be coming down and basically training up our marina manager. And then in the foreground there is Gordon Braybach, who's been a longtime owner, supporter, and a marina expert, been involved in marinas for about 40 years, and founder of the Newport Yacht Club. A great fan of the development, as well as a great asset that we've been able to use for years. But it was in this meeting that we discussed the next steps that were coming of opening up the marina to business. And they told us at that point that if you guys can get this thing ready by January, we would like to make the announcement at the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show that we are opening up our newest marina at the reserve in Belize. That's huge. According to the Fort Lauderdale International Yacht Boat Show, they are the largest motor yacht show in the world. That's a big statement. IGY has been ranked as one of the #1 marina management companies in the world, and is the #1 marina management company in the Caribbean. They are also a membership marina, meaning that their members have rights to go into other marinas. So that is almost like a built-in business set. But they also know some demographics. This guy right in the back there, Bert, who's kind of leaning forward, he told me that his demographic, he knows from the boats that come to IGY marinas, the class of boat that they're in are the type of boat when somebody arrives at your marina, the first thing they want to do is get off of their boat. So if you're wondering, okay, if I build a house, who's going to rent it? Who am I going to sell it to? There's your answer. The IGY set of members set are the type of individuals that go to these destinations on their boat, but when they get there, they want to step off their boat and they want to put their feet on dry land. They want to sleep in a bed. So if there's a question of who's going to rent my place, who's going to buy my land, who's going to build here, that may be your answer right there. So it's a built-in customer set that's going to come down. We also have plans for a property management office in the Marina Village. So these people step off their boats. You can put yourself into the rental pool. The government of Belize actually right now is going to make it so that if you want to do Airbnb, it must be through a property management firm. They're obviously their room tax they want to try to protect. So we'll have that property management firm for you, so you can be advertising on Airbnb. You're going to meet Mr. Watford, who's an owner down there, who the first week he put his house on Airbnb, he rented it for over 30 days right out of the box. So there's a great deal of interest in coming down, staying on our property. There's a lifestyle there now to enjoy. And as soon as this marina opens, we really believe it's going to be gangbusters as far as the demand for places to stay. If you're looking at this as an investment and want to think about, okay, resale valuation, that's not I don't do the investment side of things. I just do a lot of the development and compliance, but I can tell you if there's a development that's going to have a marina, and that marina is about to open with one of the largest marina management companies, who their whole job day and night while you sleep is to figure out how to get more boats down to your marina, I think that speaks for itself as to what value that's going to create and the throughput that's going to create economically in this development. So super excited for you guys to be going down at this period of time. I can't talk too much about it simply because I've lived it. Since 2012 till now, I've been waiting to be able to make this sort of announcement to people. So I'm very excited for you guys to go see it and enjoy the lifestyle and living on the property for a few days and see how it is. Also, I'm really pleased to say that in further discussions with IGY, we are been allowed to use their restaurant brand, Fat Turtle, which obviously to the boating community is very familiar, especially been there in Cabo, couple places in the Caribbean. So right there, coming beginning of the year, we're actually putting the development plans together for it right now. I have a meeting later this week to put together the construction diagrams to start building the Fat Turtle. That will be the restaurant that will be servicing the marina. The Beach Club restaurant will be sort of more your fine dining. Fat Turtle will be sort of grab some nice Caribbean fare. Of course, it's all going to be supplied by the organic farm. Obviously, you got to support your local farmer. So we've got our own in-house farm. So everything that you eat, everything that you drink, I've got a juice stand that's coming at the organic pond. It's going to be coffee and juice. My goal is to make it so that wherever you are on this property, you don't have to worry about where is this coming from. You know, is this water clean? Is this an organically grown spinach? You don't have to worry. That's that holistic wellness component that I want to build into this community. Wherever you are, if you're having a BLT, you know the lettuce and tomato on there is right just a mile away from your garden, and Nana is your caretaker there, and you know him on a first name basis, and you can enjoy the lifestyle that we're trying to create for you in this beautiful community. The other thing is, you know, one of the big perks is you are going to be able to land on a 2,900-foot private airstrip that we developed, that we have certified. This is a little known fact, a little tidbit for you. The commercial carriers down there are Maya Airline and Tropic Airlines. There is no other private airstrip except for one. There's no other private airstrip that the commercial carriers down there will land. because they have their own certification program and standards that they adhere to. We are the only private airstrip that the commercial carriers will land. So, and that's for owners and guests and obviously us, the developers. Now, this 2,900-foot airstrip is just adjacent to our property. And the reason that is because we have a plan for a 6,000-foot airstrip that's coming in phase 3 of the development. Now, that 6,000-foot airstrip, you will be able to land private jets. You will be able to fly directly internationally into that airstrip simply because the marina has to have customs and immigration kiosk for boats of foreign flag that are coming into the marina. So we will also be able to offer those exact same services at the airstrip that is on property. So this will be a little bit of a foreshadow. You'll be able to land into your own private airstrip. It's a short little van ride across to the development, but soon you'll actually be able to land in the development, and basically you won't have any need for transport other than from the airstrip to your home, which is within the gates. Now, here's something you need to know. This is when we're getting into what to prepare for the tour. When you fly into Belize International Airport, you're going to be given a customs form. On that form, it's going to ask you where you're staying. And a lot of people get hung up there because they're like, well, I'm not really sure where I'm staying. So what I would like you to put in there is that you're staying in Stan Creek. That's S-T-A-N-N Creek, C-R-E-E-K. Okay, Stan Creek. And then you're going to check the box that says guest house. Because you're not staying in a hotel, you're staying on our property, and we have these guest house villas that you'll be staying in. If you cannot remember Stan Creek, just put the reserve. And they'll say, well, where is that? And you can say down south. And the immigration official may say, you mean Stan Creek? And you'll say, yes, that's the word that Frank told me to remember. So at any rate, when you're there on the immigration form, just make sure you tick the box that says guest house. Okay, and that'll make things a lot easier and you'll breeze right through immigration. Pick up your bags, walk through to the domestic side, which is really one exit. Is pretty much a no-brainer because a lot of people are like, well, how will I know where I'm going? The smiling faces at Maya Airlines, M-A-Y-A, will be there to greet you as soon as you come onto the domestic side, which is just really just a set of double doors, and they'll get you on the flight and you'll land right here and it'll be onto the tour. The next thing you'll do is some of the, probably Franklin, it's kind of a heavy-set guy who's both our van captain and our boat captain and a boat mechanic. You'll find many of the folks down there in Belize are multi-talented. Franklin will pick you up. You'll get a little cool towel service to freshen you up. Air-conditioned van, take you just a couple miles across to the property. You'll come in through the main gates, and you will check in here at Villa Fiesta, which is our headquarters, where you will check in, maybe get a little welcome drink there. I think actually they take you there, check you into which villa you're going to go. They take your bags to your villa, and then you can have a quick little meet and greet and go freshen up. Here's one example of one of the villas that you'll be staying in. Very obviously comfortable accommodations for everyone, all air conditioned, of course. Make sure you have some lounge clothes because you'll probably want to hang around a little bit when you're downtime. These are great places to get a feel of what it's like to live in Belize in the construction. I lived in one of these for 2 years when I worked on site overlooking the savannah. Enjoyed some of the most beautiful sunsets that I've ever seen in my life right there. It's a beautiful location, morning, noon, and night. Some other pictures of sort of the more Balinese or Tahitian style of indoor-outdoor living. We've got outdoor living spaces and gardens separating the living areas from the suites. All the rooms have suites. So this is an example of one of them where the bedroom's to the left on the other side of the dresser. You've got these dual restroom facilities for his and hers. Then you'll probably get on the Duffy boats and take the short little Venetian cruise. These are electric Duffy boats by a guy named Duffy out of Newport Beach. We have 8 of them. All have some pretty clever names. And these are the boats, little electric boats that will ply everyone to and fro the beach club, back down to the marina, maybe even little shuttle services to homes that have water frontage. So there's our little gondola water taxi, but you'll have a little ride up to the beach club from the marina, to give you an idea of what life is like on our little channel system, engineered channel system. You'll arrive at the beach club where you'll have dinner. This will be the place where you'll gather every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I really hope you enjoy it. It's one of the most just tranquil, beautiful, serene places on earth. You can watch from sunrise straight ahead to sunset on the mountains behind us. It's a wonderful vantage point all times of the day. And there it is right there. Absolutely gorgeous. All that furniture that you see in there, and you're going to see furniture and Belizean wood everywhere you look, all created on our own cabinet shop right on property. That's right. We have our own cabinet shop. Belize banned the export of furniture, hardwood furniture, which was a smart move, but it obviously had a deep economic impact on a lot of the craftsmen that were employed by Ethan Allen and other fine woodworkers. You'll see that we've found a home for them right on site in the middle of the property of a base yard with a beautiful cabinet shop. You'll probably get to stop by there on property day, check up on those guys, see what they're building. A lot of headboards for the tent guest rooms right now. But all you see on property is made from wood, much of which we have sourced on site. Obviously, when we're cutting through roads, some trees have to come down. We have a very nice biomass project where we source out the hardwoods, we cure them, and we give them to the cabinet shop as raw material, and they turn them into these beautiful things. So a finer example of upcycling you'll never see, and a wonderful sustainable economy, because once we're done as a developer and building all these beautiful things, we hope to inspire you all to build your furniture there versus, you know, transporting at a great cost furniture from back home. Leave it back home. It looks better there. Come on down to Belize, build things out of Belize hardwood furniture, have our guys design it. Literally, you could take a catalog tear page, hand it to our engineering department, they'll CAD it up, shop plan it, send it over to the cabinet shop, and build your dream furniture for you right on site. And here's some examples of it there. There's that beautiful sunset I was talking to you about. You can see from the beach club, because of its position out on a spit of high dune beach, you've got these beautiful low wetlands that open up into the mountains, into the distance. So you can see the sunrise in the morning and the sunset at night. One of the rare opportunities there in Belize. On property day, so that's, you know, you'll arrive, you'll have dinner, you'll have get to know everybody, be introduced to the team, get a good night's sleep. Can't emphasize that enough. You're not going to have a problem sleeping in Belize because it is dead still at night and it is beautiful. You'll get a great inky black sleep. You'll wake up the next morning and then bam, action day. It's the day that you got to get out and traverse about 10,000 acres. You'll drive many, many miles that day. So there are a couple of things you're going to want to make sure that you have with you. Number one, anybody that is a hiker or outdoor enthusiast, you know what I'm about to say, water. Okay, make sure you have, we'll have big coolers back there. Make sure you have a water every so often. You know, beer is good. You know, beer is an electrolyte. So, but make sure you get water in there and stay hydrated. Next, you're probably going to want to have some sunscreen, especially if you're prone to getting sunburned. This is the tropics, and Belize sun can be pretty deceiving at times. Feels great, feels warm, but very direct. So make sure you have your sunscreen with you. If you forget your sunscreen, we've got plenty to go around. You see how these folks are, sunglasses, hats. On property day, a lot of people say, well, bring your flip-flops. That's true. I mean, you may want your flip-flops for hanging around the beach club or maybe over on an island day. But really, I prefer to recommend to you guys that on property day, because it's a lot of areas are open and active job sites, have a closed-toe shoe, maybe a tennis shoe, or maybe a sandal, open sandal, but closed toe. Because there are things, you know, some uneven surfaces and things like that. So I want to keep you guys safe, obviously. But you see, it's very relaxed dress. Don't bring your Wimbledon whites or your linens for property day, because as you can see, we do kick it up out there. It can get a little dusty or muddy. But you want to, you know, have something that you can enjoy the time that's breathable, sort of like if you were going to go outside, something maybe a little athletic. But you're going to have a big day. You're going to have lunch that day. You're going to see a lot of different lots. You'll have plenty of time to take a look at your lots. If you have alternate lots in mind, You'll have time to see that. That's what those guys are there for. The guys that are in those Polarises are there to get you around the property. Look again. I mean, when I was down 2 weeks ago, I was with a lovely couple, two ladies who were looking at a lot, and they were stuck between like 4 or 5 lots, and I swear we went back and forth to every one of them at least 3 times. But you know what? That to me was what was so significant, that they were taking their time, and this was a big investment, a big purchase for any of us, right? And they wanted to take their time to make sure they got it right, and I appreciated that so much because they were giving it the care and foresight that we as a development team have put into this. So I couldn't honor it enough for them to go back and forth 3 or 4 times, and they kept saying, "Frank, we're so sorry to make you have to go back. Do you mind?" I'm like, "Of course I don't mind. I want you guys to be on the place that speaks to you." And eventually they did. They each found a lot that they both love. Each has a little difference to it, and they were kind of joking that they'll visit each other because one of them likes some things that are on the other one lot, and so and the opposite. So it's wonderful. Plus, you're going to get to see some beautiful homes like the ones you see that are sort of tucked in here. Some of the houses you can't even see because they do such beautiful site planning. Like I said, on a big forested area like this, you want to see that forest. You don't want to lose that. You don't want the whole thing to be clear cut and all you see is a bunch of houses. And they say, well, why in the world was this ever called Sapodilla Ridge? It's no longer an alluvial forested ridge. So you'll see some great examples of site planned homes. They're spread out, obviously, over a large area. People are really starting to build right now. The people that have built down there over the past years are really the early pioneer uptakers of our development, and we thank them for the faith that they had. But really, now is the time you're going to see a lot of building going on in our development. I sit on the architectural review board. We have about literally 15 or 20 applications right now to build, and it's only going to get more as we go on. That's Northridge. Many of you are probably looking at Northridge as a place that you want to that you want to look. This is actually one of the areas I was telling you about when I was down. We did a lot of running around in there, and there's some really big, beautiful areas. What I'd like to point out here is this is what I was talking about. These roads are all cut up on the high areas, and you can see in some of the low areas, like to the left of this picture, you see the Caribbean, and then the interior of the mangrove, and then you see that sort of light area with some dark. It looks almost like a wash. That is a low area. That's a natural drainage pattern. That's nature's engineering. Again, when it rains, the water moves across our property and basically is in staging sections that nature creates. And that's how nature slows things down and allows all the ecology in each of those stations to benefit. So the grasslands, obviously, the water conveys across, drops down. The balance of that water that's coming off of these areas like the ridgeline go down into these little wash areas where these wetlands, these beautiful wetlands, you can't really tell from this picture, but there are beautiful grassy wetlands there, and those are absorbent. They slow the water down, they absorb a lot of the water, they bring it up in, and they release it very slowly, and that releases very slowly into our lagoons, which keeps the fish nurseries healthy, and then those fish nurseries open up into the Caribbean, and you're going to see some of the most dramatic and beautiful coral reefs that you've ever seen in your life right on our island. Many other areas of the world are wondering why their coral reefs are in decline. You go to Belize, the Smithsonian Institute has a research center out there, and they're trying to figure out why is Belize's coral reefs actually in a juvenile stage where they're actually growing at a great rate, and that's a sign of the health of the water systems that are coming off of this beautiful country. It's a very lightly populated country, only about 300,000 people. They have a really small enough country where commercial agriculture really didn't take off. You're going to see some shrimp farms along the way, but a very small impact shrimp farm. So by and large, Belize has been a success story in conservation and setting aside 1/3 of the marine and 1/3 of their lands off to conservation as a ethic, as a land ethic, as a country. Pretty amazing. A lot of these areas that you're seeing here, this is Northridge looking, and you'll see those little blue, light blue areas there to the left of the screen. Those are the first cuts of the channels that will eventually be those Northridge Islands. If any of you are looking at Northridge Island lots, They will end up looking a lot like the Sapodilla Ridge lots, actually identical to the Sapodilla Ridge lots. Some of them will be all of them will be raised to 3 feet above sea level or mean water level, and that's where your foundation will be once we get full compaction. Next day after the property tour, you'll go to our private island. That's your decompression day. On the island, you probably, like I said, you want to have your swim trunks, maybe a change of clothes. You definitely want to have water socks. Water socks are great, they're kind of water shoes that allow you to walk around, because we definitely keep our island in a very native condition. People are kind of always sweeping up, especially rough broken shell and broken coral. You'll see it once in a while. And that's something that's almost like aggregate that helps build beaches. So if we clean all that up, it actually causes beach erosion. So you may find from time to time when you're walking out to the offshore offices here, where you'll meet with the guys for your private one-on-one meetings to talk about what direction you want to go, and if you're interested in becoming part of our community. When you're taking that little walk out there, you may find there's some rough stuff on the bottom. So I always recommend people have their water shoes. If you want to go kayaking, if you want to go stand-up boarding, if you want to go snorkeling, all those things are right there. We have all the gear. Don't worry about it. You don't have to bring about. You don't have to worry about that sort of thing. We have all the toys out there, including a football once in a while. Of course, massage. At the island, what better way is there to enjoy an island out in the middle of the Caribbean than getting a great massage? The lady in the green there to the right is Christine Small, who was Belizean. She sits on the Placencia Chamber of Commerce. She's a great resource, a wonderful, powerful woman leader in her community, and she runs probably the best massage spa anywhere in Belize. And we're so fortunate to have her every weekend come out and give professional massage to you guys at the island. It's an experience that you won't forget. We just actually finished, you see this sort of small little massage palapa. We've actually expanded it for her so she can get around to the other side of you and be able to work not just a left side massage, but both right and left. As you can see, it's a pretty tight little spot that she used to have to work in. So we've expanded that for her, and enjoy that while you're there. And then, of course, you'll be able to meet later that evening. You'll be able to meet some owners. Hopefully, you'll be able to be doing this with them and raising your glass and welcoming you to the community. The tour that I came down, it's not always this way, but the tour that I came down, that everybody that was on tour are now members of our community. And I'm so excited by that fact that they saw the vision, they realized the dream, they meet with great people that's going to be their neighbors. Many of them say, I don't even know my neighbors at home, and I can't wait to meet my neighbors here. That's common because we are a community. We're very all of like mind of keeping this place very beautiful and lush, simple and healthy for everyone. So you'll get some time after Island Day to relax, unwind with some of the owners. And then next day is open day. This is not the greatest picture in the world, but this is our landscape garden, and just past the landscape garden are the farms. We'll have met Nana Mensa by that point. He will have given you probably a mind-blowing tour of our garden and show you how some of the things that are growing native to Belize are there to get you well and keep you well. Pretty amazing guy. I really can't wait for you guys to meet him. And please, bend his ear, ask him some questions. He's an amazing resource. Like I said, he's a national treasure in Belize, and we have him programming our farm. And I just hope he stays forever, and I think he will. There's the man himself. That's Nana Mensa right there with a truckload of his bounty. When we're through supplying the staff kitchen, because a healthy staff is a productive staff, so we produce organics for the staff kitchen for the development. After we produce all the input that we need for the restaurants and for your tour, we have leftovers, and those leftovers go to all the owners on the property, and the balance of that goes to a program that we've created that works with the schools at City River to give them nutritional lunches and nutritional vegetables to the community next door. So it's a little, give back, community give back, and goodwill that we owe that community because of how much they've contributed and given back to our community. So Nana's the man. You're going to get to meet him down there and learn about his farming practices and everything he does to produce this beautiful bounty that you see here before you. And it's only going to get better. You'll also be able to go out on Monday, or I think it's Sunday, I'm sorry, day after the Island Day, go horseback riding. Jermaine and Michael are two wranglers. They're brothers. They've been with us. I hired Michael in 2013, only to be convinced that we needed another wrangler because two wranglers are better than one. I said, okay, and next day I knew it, his brother's there. And those two are phenomenal. Two of the best horsemen anywhere in Belize. One of them actually was a former jockey. And we've got our Sweet 16, which are 16 beautiful horses ranging from Appaloosas to Thoroughbred to Belizean quarter horses, which are Imagine Seabiscuit. And they're all great horses that those guys work with a lot to take you onto the bridle trails. You're going to enjoy that if you're into horses. If you want to go with Mr. David Hilmy through his mangrove maze, the Labyrinth Lagoon, he has created this wonderful kayak trail through the mangle they call it, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And it's a great way to get acquainted with the wetlands and a lot of the ecology that's in there. Wonderful times. Okay, that's the little 5-acre island that you're going to see, and you're going to notice when you get there, there's going to be a striking difference from this photograph. This photograph was probably taken in about 2013. At that point, we started a program of propagating coconut shoots to cover that big middle area there that looks like a beach, like a donut, right? And the green on the outside, and there's a lot of mangrove and coconut trees. And that whole middle section there was a low depression that we improved with fill that allowed us twofold purpose. One, to give us a deep channel access so we can bring in the big boat and drop off right at the island. And you're going to see that big area that was given to fill that created a high ground has now over 350 coconuts. And I can tell you that we used to trip over those things because they were, 18 inches off the ground, and now they soar to 12, 15 feet overhead. Within a year or two, it's going to be a canopy that's going to be soaring above everyone's head. Change the entire ecosystem of our island. The climate is cooler. I'll tell you, it makes the argument for why forests control climate. When you get off the boat, rather than going across that open 3 acres of beach, you're going to go under a cool, breezy canopy of coconut trees. There's a Norfolk pine on there. I invite you guys all to go find where it is that we planted for Veterans Day, and it will soon be soaring feet above the canopy in the years to come. Again, these are all legacies for us. We have a restroom facility there that is going to be built on the island. The first generation one that you're going to see there is not so great, but the next one has a rainwater catchment system, so you'll be able to have fresh water showers. You'll be able to have flush toilets, his and hers, and changing rooms. So we're about to develop that in the upcoming quarter. All right, so I think I hit everything here of things to bring. Flip-flops, tennis shoes, sunglasses, like I said before, casual dress, for dinner. If you want to wear something a little fancier, that's fine. Sunscreen, bug spray, we have them, but bring them just in case, your water shoes. And the sales guys always tell me, don't forget, this is a business trip. Bring your credit card and your checkbook so that you can take advantage of becoming part of our community right there on the spot, which I really look forward to. And I honestly, I tell everybody when I'm down there, I look forward to right now being the sustainability director to becoming your sustainability director. Okay, so that's what I've got as far as my presentation is concerned. So, and I see it, I've been seeing some questions coming along here, and let me go and let me kind of, okay, so let's see. Okay, first question is a popular question, a common question is, how is wastewater handled for homes in the development? Well, we use a decentralized wastewater strategy. If you talk to any municipal wastewater public utilities department, they would all, if they could go back and do it all over again, they would use a decentralized system such as the one that we've designed. So in our building guidelines and in the engineering department, and for example, when I worked in the engineering department, I lived and worked down there for 2 years. One of the foremost things that I did was to put together the specifications for wastewater treatment. Now, you'll see a very large example of one of these systems down at the beach club. And you don't see it, you don't hear it, most importantly, you don't smell it, but it's there. And it's a small wastewater system, completely enclosed, and basically treats the water within about a 24 to 48 hour cycle and allows that water, the clean water, to be discharged. And it basically uses aerobic enzyme technology that's been around for a very long period of time to basically use the natural processes to break down waste. What it does is it treats the water so quickly without using harsh chemicals. It treats the water so quickly that it doesn't have the opportunity to go septic. So a lot of people say, well, do you have septic tanks? Well, sepsis is a process, an anaerobic process. We use an aerobic system, so it's a very small energy usage. And like I said before earlier in my presentation, I don't leave you guys to the wolves. The system that we have, I went out and I found the vendors in the background environment in Belize that sell, warranty, maintain these systems. And they're all drop-in systems, which means that your builder, all he has to do is, and they know this, the builders all know this, they stub out, and from that stub, the vendor comes in, drops in the system, wires it all up, plumbs it all out. You've got your soak-away field that is usually a garden soak-away field. And we have a beautiful diagram that we created in a CAD in the engineering department that not only tells you what type of system and size system that you should put in, but also in the soak-away, what types of plants you should be planting in your soak-away, because the best way to finish the process, or what they call polish the effluent, is to get that water out and up. For example, the standard home has about 50 to 75 gallons per day is the output of water. One plantain plant drinks about 50 gallons of water a day. So in your soak-away, you can put in wild ginger, you can put in a banana, plantain, you can put in all kinds of beautiful florals that are what we call thirsty plants. And that basically will not only take up the last bit of nutrients, like if there's some nitrates and phosphates left in the water, those go up and produce beautiful blossoms, like in heliconia, requires those nitrates and phosphates for the colorful flowers. And then obviously the larger water and nitrogen that you're trying to get. Those things, you don't even need to be taking notes right now, because we have a big, beautiful blueprint, including the plant list that goes with that, to basically create this little system in your backyard that's both aesthetically beautiful and completely able to forget, because the maintenance plan that comes with these systems includes a semi-annual checkup to make sure that the system is working correctly. And you can actually buy an extra little device that works through your home Wi-Fi that will send a little email up to your friend Luis Garcia, who's the president of Eco-Friendly Solutions in Belmopan, that tells him that something's wrong with your system. And then he will be able to send out a tech, or better yet, some of the guys that we have trained on the property are trained to work on, troubleshoot those systems. So again, these are the type of systems that if you're away, you're wondering, oh gosh, what's going to happen while I'm away, you can flip over to vacation setting, and the system basically goes into kind of a hibernation mode. And then when it comes time, you're going to come and visit, come back, stay, maybe call Luis, or want to have one of our techs go by, flip the system on, and the whole thing reboots. The great thing is you're going to be able to meet people who have lived this. It's not just a lot of talk or theory. You wouldn't live very long in the business that I've been in, the type of consultant work that I've done overseas, if you weren't able to deliver something that is sustainable. And by that I mean a durable piece of equipment that somebody's there that can fix, troubleshoot, spare parts, parts rooms, low energy requirements, all those different things. So I'm not just talking the talk, but we actually walk the walk. And you don't have to even trust us. You're going to get to meet people like Jerry Brown, who's the president of Homeowners Association. He'll probably be there for one of the dinners with you guys. Not that you might want to talk, wastewater systems over dinner, but you can find some time with Jerry. Jerry took up the call when he moved. He was a pioneer. He was moving down on one stretch of road in Equestrian that we didn't even have power down to. And I told him, listen, we'll make sure we have power to you by the time you're finished building. And I also recommended Luis Garcia and this system. He did so, and he is thankful as ever. Every time he sees me, he thanks me because it's been the most trouble-free system, and he's a true believer. So you can go ahead and talk to him about how easy it is and how great the service is that he gets. Again, that's something that is a legacy as the developer, that we've created these relationships for you. We've trained our workforce so that they can troubleshoot these systems. You feel free to bring in an exotic system if you'd like. If you have one that and works well for you, by all means, bring it in. But I just warn you that the system may run great until the first thing breaks, and then who's gonna to fix it? So hope that answers your question. When you get as part of the community, you're going to get an owner's handbook. In that owner's handbook is the diagram that I'm talking about. You'll be able to see not only the specific layout, but that is also the building standard for our community. And one of the greatest honors of my life was one that I didn't even know about. I did a cold call visit to Central Building Authority up in Belize City, and the head of Central Building came to me and said, "Hey Frank, I want to let you know that the diagram that you guys in the engineering department is now going to become the national standard for the next iteration of the building guidelines." There's no better, in my opinion, no better compliment that you can receive than being copied, right? Plagiarism is the best form of compliments. Okay, so how long will the aquifer last? Into perpetuity. The reason I know that is, unlike even some of the municipal systems in Belize, we did a full hydrologic study where they followed the watershed all the way up to the heads, the heads, watershed heads. No one in Belize up to us had done anything quite like this. It's quite a comprehensive map that, if anybody's really interested in seeing, it's quite detailed and quite extensive, but it calculates exactly how much water falls on the shed, how much of that water goes down into our aquifer, and we only consume, or our outside metric was 25% of the recharge. That's not 25% of the aquifer, but 25% of the recharge. That means that of the 100% recharge that hits the aquifer every year, we only will max out when the entire development is built and everybody is living there. We call it Easter Sunday precautionary. The Easter Sunday precautionary principle is you assume that one day of the year everybody shows up, like we all do in church on Easter Sunday. Everybody shows up and everybody's eating and drinking and taking showers and flushing toilets. We take that as our precautionary principle, and on that we 190 to 120 inches of rain per year fall on our watershed. We have a known watershed that's all completely captured. Half of our watershed, there's 7 different sheds. Half of them are on our property. The other half are on the Coxcomb National Reserve, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's not going anywhere. So I hope that answers your question. But as far as sustainability is concerned on our water, we can say with complete confidence that we are water independent. The other thing that we can say with complete confidence is that we have actually are the first and only private water utility in the history of Belize. We went through all of the international standards and guidelines to become an international, a private water utility, which includes showing in scientific terms through hydrology reports and studies that our water supply is sustainable, number one, and the quality is sustainable. We actually deliver certified World Health Organization standard water, which I was just asked today, is the water at our property as good as the United States? I can say with definiteness that our water is better, and that is not just a sales pitch. Take a look at the World Health Organization. They rank all the water systems in the world based on their standards. We have applied and received World Health Organization standard by the Minister of Health of Belize, meaning we have achieved the absolute standard World Health Organization requires in the testing of our water 8 times a year. The United States, you would think, well, is it number 1? Is it number 5? Is it number 10? No. The United States, by World Health Organization standards, is the 63rd in the world. We have very poor water systems in our country, and that's why we all have to put all these treatments and water filters and everything before we can drink out of the tap. At our development, we can drink out of the tap. It's clean, certified, closed loop water system, and I'm proud of it. And you too can be proud of it as being a member of the community. Has a hurricane damage to marinas and other Caribbean islands added value to this marina? You know, listen, that isn't a bad question to ask. I mean, I have received word from Eric, whose development, that they are doing some repairs at their San Martin marina. One of the things that I showed you, Bob, who's the marina manager from San Martin, really appreciated the fact that we've built our marina behind the Sapodilla Lagoon. All these things are huge surge sponges. The barrier reef way out there, you'll see, settles the water down to a trickle of a wave. You go outside the barrier and it's like Pirates of the Caribbean out there, even on a good day. But inside the barrier, the water is shallow and much of the energy is reduced. There's less to surge. The next thing that's a huge surge absorber is the mangrove, of which the Sapodilla Lagoon is 100% a mangrove lagoon, and the lagoon itself is a huge sink. And then behind us is our marina. So we're really insulated from a lot of the storm, wind, and surge that can damage marinas. In fact, if anybody's a boater, you know what a storm hole is. The storm hole is a registered spot on your navigational charts that if you can reach that storm hole during tropical weather, your insurance policy will apply. If you're not in a storm hole during tropical storms, you're at risk of your insurance not covering you. The Sapodilla Lagoon itself is a registered storm hole on navigational maps. We are actually behind that, which actually is an extra layer of security. I think that to boaters, they know that. Guys like Gordon, who I showed you the picture of, was the one who was the firm proponent of us building the marina at a far greater cost and protecting that marina the way he is. But he's an owner of big boats. He's the owner of the Mariah that you saw some pictures of there. And this is home port for this boat. And I think others will be of like mind when they see the security. They're going to feel comfortable having their boat in our marina. So that's a great question. Average sunshine is 200 to 250 hours per month or more. Current data for Belize shows 100 hours per month, peaking on 150, significantly less. Is that true for this local area? I would say you're probably going to see that a lot of that data is collected inland. And inland, particularly when you go along like Hummingbird Highway, you start getting into elevations, you get a much more heavy cloud cover. Now, you don't have to take my word for this. When you get down there, assuming that there's no storm fronts going through, the normal cycle is you're going to see near the coast is that the clouds will be far off the sea during the morning hours, and then during the afternoon hours, you're going to start seeing them building up over the mountains off in the distance, and that during the night, the coastal shift or land breeze starts to induct, and that causes a rainstorm during the night. So generally speaking, along the coastline, we get more sunshine than particularly the interior of the country, because it's more mountainous and there's a lot more cloud accumulation during particularly afternoon and in certain times of the year. I think the best person to talk to will be somebody else that you'll probably meet. His name is Tom Scrutchen and his wife Penny Scrutchen, who have been living off grid for about 3 years, and they can give you the data. Now, they have a very large home, and they have a very large collector to go with it, but they also have a large storage to go with that. So there's certainly no doubt in my mind that in any home that you want to build off the grid, you're going to opt for solar, you are going to want to have a battery bank, and you're probably going to want to have a backup generator. But honestly, if you do the levelized cost of all of that, you're still less than the cost of tying into the grid, because energy is not exactly cheap in Belize. So it makes a pretty good case for solar. Even if your whole home is not off grid, you know, take the burden off of the energy that your home uses by supplementing with solar perhaps, or go with a lot of gas, like gas range, gas dryer, hot water heaters. Those are the ways of reducing your dependency on energy. But you'll find that different times of the year, obviously, during the rainy season, it's not like when I heard rainy season Belize, I thought it was going to be like India monsoon, where it's just like curtains of rain for days. It's not really like that. Belize rainy season is much more of an afternoon shower cycle, sort of the way you get in Miami. And I don't think anybody would argue that Miami is a cloudy, not so sunny place. Most of the time it's sunny there. Certain times of the year you get, you know, quick downpour, similar like that. Okay. People are asking how the property is powered. We have close to 60 miles of 3-phase power provided to us by BEL, Belize Electric Limited. They have the monopoly on the installation, maintenance, and upkeep of line. So we basically develop the basic infrastructure, cut the check, write the contract, and they install the power. Obviously, it's not the fastest thing in the world getting power. It's been over a course of many years that we've been putting power in, but we have power to about 70 to 80% of the property, and we're hoping to close that out in the next year and being able to say we have 100% of the property under power. But, you know, like I said, it's a big community. There's 60 miles of roads, 60 miles of water line. We have most of the water line that we put in ourselves. And then obviously energy is something that Belize Electric Limited has been really great. Some people say, well, why is some above ground and some below ground? Belize Electric Limited, because they have the ultimate responsibility for upkeep of the lines, make the final decision of whether it's above or below ground. If you're traversing a large distance, they prefer to go above ground, because in the tropics, it's only a matter of time before you get water infiltration into underground power lines, and it's very difficult for them to troubleshoot where line breaks are if it's underground. Whereas above ground, obviously, it's quite obvious when there's a break. Now, shorter trenches, like you'll see out to the little small islands, the short trenches, they'll agree to go underground. Because it's, you know, a shorter distance for them to have to troubleshoot. Yes, fiber optic infrastructure. Yes, there is a plan to have fiber optic, and it really has to deal with economics. We already got the price to bring the main mother line down from Southern Highway. There is a fiber optic line that runs north to south across the entire country. To bring that mother line into our community, it cost about $30,000. But they said, the fiber optic provider said, until you have some critical mass of residents that are there to basically consume it, they wouldn't underwrite that cost. So we have companies just like, you know, the cable industry and fiber optic industry, you know, they'll install the infrastructure, quote unquote, for free, and that'll be underwritten by subscriptions. So yes, that's all there. We actually have extra conduit running through the entire property that will make way for that fiber optic. Currently, we have satellite, SATCOM, as you say, service. It's quite good. We wouldn't be able to do what we do for a living if we weren't. We have a commercial system at the office there. You'll see on site. That's a satellite system that is 3G, and then you can get that same for home. For example, when I was living down there, I was living on Netflix, and you can stream Netflix there. Obviously, it's fairly robust, but in the future we can see even more robust systems coming in. The gas that they have in Belize. I'm sorry. The question is, I mentioned gas-powered appliances being more efficient than electric. Is gas via propane tanks or natural gas via Belize utility company? Yes, there's a national gas delivery, and it's a blend of propane and natural gas mix. It's quite affordable. The only reason I say that it's a different mix is because some folks have brought down appliances and they're wondering why that appliance isn't working right, because the nozzle for natural gas is a different size than the nozzle that you need for this. So you'd have to get the nozzle switched out. But if you buy the appliances in country, or you let somebody know that you're importing from out, they'll switch it out for you. But again, this is one of those values of buying in the community. You may not have learned that if you were outside of our community, but those are the sort of the things that we have all figured in. And you'll find that we tried to get the builders, and like I said, I sit on the architectural review board, but really it's less about the architecture that we're reviewing. It's more about the plans that the builders are bringing in. And whenever we see plans, we say, well, why don't you think about using flash water heaters, because then you'll reduce energy consumption. Why don't you think about gas range versus electric range, because it'll reduce consumptions. But yes, gas is readily available. We actually have a delivery service that comes to the development. So all you have to do is call and say, hey, I'm in the development and I need a fill up. The truck will come, I think, once a week, stop by your place, fill up your tank. So several thousand-gallon tanks. So it lasts most people, a year. Question: are there any or many owners who live there 6-9 months a year and are considered Belize residents? No. There's two things I should mention. One is the QRP Qualified Retirement Program. If you're going down there to retire, you can live down there full time without ever risking inadvertently becoming a resident, because obviously that has consequences. If you're going down there to visit, all you need to do is go back and get your passport stamped once a month, and they'll let you stay indefinitely as long as you're getting stamped and you obviously are playing by all their rules down there. If you did want to become a resident, there is a program for that. I think it would require at least a 1-year stay in the country under the resident program, and then after that you could actually apply for Belize citizenship. I'll be honest with you, I don't know too many people who have done it. I do know that it's a bureaucratic process. I do a lot of work obviously with the government, and it is a bit of a bureaucratic process. It's become much more regulated in recent years because there were some people that were going down there and just trying to buy passports, which is common. So they've really regulated it. But if you're interested in just going down and you're worried like, oh gosh, I don't want to stay too long and then suddenly end up becoming a resident, then you just go down on a tourist visa. You go get it stamped up in Dangriga. Actually, when we have the IGY marina opened, like I said, there will be a kiosk there for immigration. So when boats of foreign flags come in, so there will probably be hours when the immigration officer is there. And I can foresee, I may be thinking a little bit out of turn, but I can foresee when the immigration officer is there, if residents want to come, or community members want to come and get their passport stamped, and at least save you the trip to Dangriga. Okay, I think that's it. I think I hit them all. You guys have asked some great questions, by the way, and I really enjoy answering those kind of questions, simply because it shows me that you guys are, you're thinking about this in serious terms and really want to understand what we have to offer. I hope I've given you some food for thought. Like I said, we've got a lot to show you, and I really look forward to you guys getting down there because, heck, I can talk all day, but seeing is believing. I'm so excited for you guys because now you can actually go down there and enjoy the lifestyle that we always envisioned for many, many years. You may have returning owners on your tour, or ask some of the people that have been living there for some time. They'll tell you how much vision was required back in the day, so to speak. And now we're here at this most wonderful time where not only are we on the precipice of a big burgeoning community of people, like-minded people living within this wildlife reserve, but also we're at this formative point where now we're going to be opening up the marina and really putting our development on the map, and being able to welcome some friends from the boating community to come in and really provide the economy that's going to fuel the resales, the investment potential, and really importantly, if you're there, you're not interested in the investment side of things, you're really there to just build a house and then go and enjoy it. It's a perpetuation of high quality goods and services and conservation efforts and activities, the likes of which we've all been dreaming of for many, many years. So I thank you all for your time tonight. I really enjoy all the questions that you've provided me, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and welcoming you all as members of the community. Once you are, you'll have access to all of our development reports and beautiful periodicals that we put out. Nana writes them, David Hilmy writes them, I write them, Chris Camarena, one of the designers here, writes them, and you'll get good quality information, and you'll see our commitment to you and our thanks to you as our community members, who are the most important thing of all. Thanks, everyone. Have a great time, and look forward to seeing you all real soon. Bye-bye.